This is why you should always check under your bed for monsters. In 2012, a young woman who is on the phone with her boyfriend walks downstairs to the lobby of her apartment building, collects her mail, and then heads back up to her room. She sits on her bed to start sifting through the mail when she drops her phone and it falls under the bed. She lies down on the ground to try to reach her arm out to grab her phone when she notices something horrible underneath her bed. A man is lying underneath her bed with his back to her. He's in the fetal position. She manages not to scream. She grabs her phone and says to her boyfriend, "Hey, I gotta go shower. I'll call you back." And she quickly runs into the bathroom, locks the door, turns on the shower, and then jumps out her first floor window. Once she's safely across the street, she calls the police, who quickly arrive, and they go inside and they come out with a deranged, skinny-looking man. Before they take him away, one of the officers walks over to her with a very grim look on his face. He looks at her and he just says, "We found him standing outside of your bathroom holding a knife. He was waiting for you."
Ghost stories from around the world. Malaysia, the Penanggal. Once there was a young girl who was bullied by a lot of people in her village. People would often say really mean and terrible things to her, like she had a face that only her mother would love. And that made her bitter and angry, especially towards married or pregnant women. One day when the bullying was especially bad, she finally broke down and went on a rampage, which resulted in the deaths of many pregnant women in her village. She was then obviously caught and brought to justice. The villagers and the families of the victims hung her by a really tall tree, then used a different piece of rope and tied her legs together, then tied the other end of the rope to a bull. When the bull was let go, her body was pulled out, leaving her head and her organs dangling from the tree. And that's how she became a vengeful spirit, who floats around at night trying to find a pregnant woman to be her victim. This is why you should never Google yourself. Some of us might have done it once or twice, but for Honora Petrova, one simple search led to horrifying consequences. Honora had always wanted to be an ice skater. She was young, talented, successful, and had a famous trainer. The night before her first big championship win, she felt more anxious than usual. For fun, she Googled herself and came across a Wikipedia page saying that she would win. When she did win, Honora thought this must be a coincidence. But every time after that, the page would predict whether she won or lost. She checked it every single time, almost addicted to refreshing that site. When she was about to compete in another huge competition, she decided to manipulate the website by changing the outcome it predicted. But instead, it said, "Honora Petrova is going to get what she deserves." Right after, she was accused of sabotaging another girl's skates, which ended up slicing her in the forehead. Even though Honora denied it, she was banned from the competition and was dropped by her trainer. She thought this must be the worst of it until she checked the website the next day and saw a terrifying message about her. Follow for part 2 of the story.
This one might make you afraid to have a girlfriend. Haunted relationships. In 2012, a boy Nathan said his girlfriend died in a horrible car crash. They were dating for 5 years. He was struggling trying to get over it and was grieving for about 13 months when he got a Facebook message. It was from his dead girlfriend Emily. He thought it was her mom on her Facebook page, but it wasn't. A few more months, the conversations continued, and she kept making references to the past relationship that they had that only they knew about. He started getting notifications of her on Facebook of her tagged in spaces that she should have been. He knew her Facebook passwords and changed them. And the messages and tags still kept coming. She would write weird messages like she's cold, she's freezing, and that she didn't know what was going on. To this day, he doesn't know if it was some type of sick joke or really a message from the dead. Give this video a thumbs up if you want more true scary stories. Most Evilest Children Part 1. Mary Bell. Mary Bell was born from a 17-year-old sex worker in England. Throughout this little girl's childhood, she was always abused. From her own mother and from her mother's clients. That's when she decided to take her anger out on other people. The day before her 11th birthday, she took this little boy into an abandoned house and strangled him. His name was Martin Brown. Her and her friend Norma Brown even went to a nursery home and trashed it, but the cops let it go because they thought it was a sick prank. Then they took this little boy named Brian Howe by the nursery and also strangled him. Mary did unspeakable things to his body. She was then convicted of manslaughter and deemed a psychopath. She was locked up for 12 years but then got released in 1980 at the age of 23. She was then given a brand new identity to avoid the spotlight. So now she's free to do whatever she wants. She could even be your neighbor and you would never even know. Like this video for a part 2 of Evilest Children.
When I was in 6th grade, I went to go visit my little cousins at their house. Their house was right on the edge of these woods. And the woods were really thick, and our parents always told us not to go there. And one time I asked my mom why, and she said because when people do bad things, they sometimes go and hide in the woods. I was staying at my cousin's house for a week on this one trip. And whenever I was bored, I would go look out the window and watch the woods. Usually it was pretty boring, and I would just be staring at trees. But one day it was like 5 p.m. and the sun was setting, so it was getting dark, and I saw something moving in the woods. I told my uncle, and he said it was probably probably just an animal. And I told him no, it was tall and looked like a skinny lady. And he said I have a creative imagination and it was probably just a deer. But then a few minutes later, I heard my aunt and uncle whispering in the kitchen. My aunt was talking about a woman from the psychiatric hospital in their town who had escaped. Their house was like 15 minutes away from a maximum security psychiatric hospital for criminals with mental illness. And then they saw me listening to them in the doorway and they stopped talking completely. A few days later, in the middle of the night, I heard a noise downstairs.
Once you hear why he did this, it will change the way you look at strangers. In 2018, a woman was out for a walk in the blistering cold when she saw a teen girl coming towards her wearing just pajamas and oversized shoes. Turns out it was 13-year-old missing person Jamie Close, and boy did she have a terrifying story to tell. 87 days earlier, a man had broken into her home in the middle of the night, killed her parents, and then taken her prisoner. He brought her 70 miles away to his house where she was kept under a bed and largely forgotten about. She was just there for no apparent reason. When her captor left one night, she managed to escape, and that's when she ran into this woman on the road. Jamie's captor, 21-year-old Jake Patterson, was quickly found, and he immediately confessed. And this is why he did it. On his way to work one day, he stops behind a school bus and he sees a girl get on. He doesn't know anything about her, and he decides, I'm going to kill her family and I'm going to take her. He had no motive, he had no criminal history. This was truly random.
I have kicked out countless minors, but here's my favorite story. I had just gotten my managership over here and a lovely young woman walks in. She had gotten a device from somewhere else and it wasn't working and she wanted us to take a look at it. Well, of course we can do that. I asked my coworker, hey, do you know her? Is she good? Yeah, dude, I've carded her like 1,000,000 times. Okay, fine. We get to working on it, I fix it, it's a super simple issue. Sorry, ADD, but this looks kind of hard. Not gonna lie. Okay, sorry, back to it. So we finally fixed her device. She's been on her phone the whole time and she all of a sudden just starts laughing. I was like, what's so funny? And bless her heart, she flips her phone around and it's a Snapchat from one of her friends that says, when your friend is 17 and inside of a vape shop. Oh, that's a big no-no. Now, I'm not a mad manager. I'm disappointed. I simply say, are you not 18? And I witnessed this girl's soul leave her body. I'm sorry, is that not allowed? Is that not allowed? No, that's not. No, it's not allowed. I'm so clumsy. I'm so awkward. No, you're not. You're underage. I'm sorry. Bye.
These are questions for people from Spanish-speaking countries, so if you're not from a Spanish-speaking country, keep scrolling. Okay, question number 1. What country are you from? Question number 2. En tus propias palabras describe la geografía y el clima de España. Luego describe la geografía de la región donde tú vives. Se parece mucho a la geografía de una región de España o no. Y el clima? And try to make it in like 2 or 3 sentences, please.